Hello everybody, Dreamroom64 here in my first ever video, and I am really excited to show off my game room here for the first time. This game room, I've had it for a couple years now, but I've been collecting for over 20 years for context. So I've done a lot of collecting and curating over that time, and I'm really happy with the state of my collection now, and again, I'm excited to show it off. So let me just show you around the room. So in this room, I have 4 different setups, and they're all pretty much linked together in some way or another. First setup here is just a PC gaming setup on a sit-stand desk. Made this desk out of a kitchen countertop, so it's real solid wood. I did a lot of cable management. Really clean. The only cable you can really see hanging down there is the keyboard cable a little bit and the controller cable, just so I can move those a little bit. Have some nice stereo speakers on there. Alienware OLED monitor, and a pretty good office chair rather than a gaming chair. And I have a really cool sign up here, Games for Windows. That's an original sign from around, I think, 2007. And to me, it's so cool. I really like original retail signage, and I was able to change out the lights in all of my retail signs, except for my neon sign, of course, with LEDs. And everything in the room is connected to Philips Hue and is fully dimmable, so nothing is overly bright. Everything is wired in, just super clean. All right, let's move over to the next setup. So right here is my dream arcade machine. I always wanted to have a Dance Dance Revolution machine. I would see guys at the arcade as a kid just playing Dance Dance Revolution Extreme or Max 2, and it was so cool how those guys could play. And now I have a machine, I can play it at home and have the real hardware. And so I never wanted to get arcade one-ups or anything like that. I wanted to get an arcade machine that I really felt was worth the space. Now, it cost a lot of money, but it's totally worth it to me because it's something I use frequently. You just can't replicate this experience without the actual machine. So this machine is pretty neat because it has the dance mats are USB, and the screen is just HDMI. And then the touchscreen interface is USB. So inside the machine, I did a little bit of modification. I took out the coin op mechanism, I took out the coin tray, and then I put in there mechanical USB switches for each of the dance mats and the touchscreen interface. And then I have an HDMI switch and something to handle the audio. And this whole machine is hooked into the desktop computer right beside it. So this desktop computer, I can run StepMania, rather than just playing the StepManiaX game built into the machine. Although it is excellent software, it's actually better than Dance Dance Revolution. It's nice that I can play any game I want, any song I want on this machine. So it's very versatile. All right, let's move over to what's beside the machine. So right here, I have a homemade shelf. My dad made this shelf for me. It goes floor to ceiling. I've had it since college. And the shelf it's really great. He designed it so that everything really looks good. Cartridges, DVD-sized games, all fit nicely. So he designed it with peg holes spaced appropriately here. And when I first had this shelf back in college in my first apartment, I had it filled completely. And I actually downsized games, believe it or not, over the past few years. And now I have some space on it. And I spaced games out so that they just look a little better. So I have some space, and then I fill that with games facing forward. And I think that looks nice. So I'm happy to have a very curated, meticulously arranged collection. It's a lot of work to figure out what do I want to keep and what should I get rid of. But the end result is a collection that I'm just a lot happier with. Yeah, that's my first homemade shelf there. And let's go take a look at another one. So behind this door here, I have a shelf that I built myself into the wall here. So let's turn the light on. And I do have that neon sign there. That's an original 2002 Xbox Live neon sign from Everbright. There are Chinese reproductions out there now, but this is the original made in America neon sign. And I really like it. It looks even better in person. The colors are spot on. All right, so this shelf here, you can see, spans the whole wall. And I designed it so that there wouldn't be any support beams going down the middle of the shelf or anything. I just wanted a continuous long shelf. And that was a little bit challenging because some of the shelves are heavier. Like down lower, I have this Xbox 360 collection. And those, of course, get pretty heavy when you put that many on the shelf, and wood will start to bow. But I doubled up the thickness on those rows. Another thing I did with this shelf here is at just roughly below eye level, I put these Pokemon Tomy figures, and I really like these figures. I think they look great. They're all about 1.5 to 2 inches in size. Gen 1 and 2 characters there. And like I said, I placed them right below eye level, so it looks really nice when I walk in here. And I also have boxed Game Boy Pokemon games. I was fortunate, since I've been collecting a long time, I was able to get the ones I didn't have back when they were not that expensive. I don't have Crystal, but I have what is really my favorite Pokemon game, I think. It's Pokemon Puzzle Challenge. So I use that to fill the space where Crystal could go. But I really like that game anyway. And then I have the Gen 3 Pokemon games in box. And those ones I actually saved from childhood. And Emerald, fortunately, is in great condition. Because by the time Emerald came out, I was a little bit older. I had that collector mindset, and I kept it nice and clean. There's some more games for display. I like to put some Japanese games on display. Some Japanese games, you don't even need to know the language to play them. Pokemon, that's not really the case, but they look cool. And then right here I have some unmodified Game Boy Color systems. And what I did, at least I thought it was pretty creative, I arranged them in the order of the Game Boy Color logo. So if you look at the color logo there, it starts with berry, then it goes to grape, kiwi, dandelion, and teal. So again, they're just unmodified for display. I have some more Japanese games in the box, and I really like these N64 and Super Nintendo games in the box. They only cost like $10 to $15, these particular games right here. And they're such good condition, and they look better than the American games in the box. So they make really nice display pieces. On the second highest shelf, I have my Wii collection, pretty nicely curated, but I could do a little bit more work to get rid of some that I don't maybe need. My Wii U collection there. Pretty much have everything I want on the Wii U. Sonic and Mario figures there. So I'm not too big on figures, with the exception of the Pokemon Tomy figures, but I do like to have just a few figures here and there spread out in the room. You won't see any Funko Pops in my room. I'm not a fan of those. All right, up top, the very top shelf, I just have some N64 racing games in the box. Probably what Nintendo 64 was best known for at this point. A bunch of racing games. I like a lot of them. All right, so yeah, that's this shelf built into the wall. It's adjustable, fully customized, and I'm happy with how it turned out. I think it looks great. It was a bit of work to figure out, but it's better than anything you can buy. I'm a big proponent of build your own shelves. Nothing beats a custom shelf. All right, so let me just come out here. Now back to the main game room here. Over here is my retro setup. So what you see here is I have this wide shelf. It's actually 3 shelves from IKEA. It was a pretty short-lived product. And they, each one was an individual tower-style shelf here, but I combined it into a single unit with a rivet tool. And I really like this shelf because I think it has perfect spacing for consoles. It has just the right amount of height, just the right amount of depth. And but one really challenging thing about this shelf is that it's only 1/2 inch thick. So it makes cable management really tough. But I've built and torn apart my setup so many times that I've gotten very good at cable management. So you can barely see the cables. At first glance, you might not even think these consoles are hooked up. but they are, and I have the cables running at the back of the shelf supports here. I put consoles like Wii U and Switch up top since those use wireless controllers. Put the Sega consoles together here. I have a lot of EverDrives so I can try out any game I want, and I have Satiator in that Saturn, GD-EMU in the Dreamcast. I have X-Station installed in the PlayStation. PS2 is currently stock. I really like the vertical stand on it. I use a MemCard Pro 2. I have a Brooks wireless controller adapter there. And then I have the older Nintendo consoles down on this shelf in chronological order. An RGB modded NES, DMG Game Boy for display. Got the SNES Mini or Junior, whichever you want to call it. RGB modded, fantastic N64 with an EverDrive X7 in there. I have a GameCube with component video out from the, I forget what it's called. I have the one of those GC video devices, and then I have an ODE in there. I have a Wii here. It's kind of neat that I was able to put all these in chronological order and they fit so nicely on the shelf. Now down lower I have a modified original Xbox, the Halo edition. I like translucent consoles. I don't generally like special edition consoles, but I make an exception for translucent ones. And right there is a G-SCART switch. So that handles switching all the RGB SCART console signals. Now right here, this is very important. This is something that reduces power draw. So this room, normally this room doesn't draw a lot of power. I'm not normally running the arcade game, my TV, my computer all at once. I normally just have one thing or nothing powered on. And this switch here is a power switch for each individual console. So if I were to switch the NES on right here, the NES is going to fire up to life because I keep the power switch engaged. And if I switch it off, power gets cut. So these consoles aren't plugged into the mains all the time, and they're only plugged in if I switch the switch on. So it keeps everything safer. You know, these consoles are pretty old, and I don't want all that phantom power draw. Right here is a RetroTink 4K. Really awesome scaler. So not only are these consoles hooked up through analog switchers, so the analog switchers each have two video outputs, the G-SCART switch and the G-Comp switch. And one of those analog outputs goes to the PVM to the right of me, which I'll show you in a second. And the other analog output goes into the RetroTink 4K, which digitizes it, and then I have a very long HDMI cable that sends it over to my TV. It's a stunning upscaler. And to fill some space here, and because I have an air vent there, I just put this 8-bit do joystick. So yeah, that's the RetroTink 4K, that's this AV switch setup. I also have an HDMI switch up here, and that's the RetroTink 4K. And all the cable management that went into this was pretty intense, but I got it figured out. And I should say up top, I didn't cover this, I have an analog pocket, and I really like how the white pocket looks in the dock there. Same thing with the OLED Switch Joy-Cons. Look really nice in the original Switch dock, the black dock. And I just have a couple handhelds here, a modified GBA, modified GBC, soft-modded Vita, PlayStation portable for display. I have a 3000 that I would actually play on, but I really like the style, and this one is such nice condition. A lot of great memories with the PSP. Now above this stand I have my some more shelves, but this is really just to display some boxed games. And all this is a little bit of oak, solid oak boards. They're very small. I use pocket holes to screw them into the wall and made them level, of course. And the result is that I can put boxed games facing forward on the wall, just looking really nice. And then I have track lights. Let me just show the track lights here. So I installed track lights to light that up, so they actually look good, even when it's not daytime. And I generally keep the blinds shut to keep the daylight off of them so that they won't fade too much. Right here, I have an Xbox and a PlayStation 2 retail sign. These are original retail signs. When I downsized my collection a few years back, one of the things I treated myself to were these signs because I never found these in the wild after years and years of game hunting. So I just had to buy them, basically market price. But I think they're so cool, and I worked really hard to get them lit up with the room, fully dimmable, like I said before, and upgraded to Philips Hue LEDs, did all that, found a way to do it. All right, let's see here. I have a nice poster lit up by the track light, framed. I really like to have my posters in frames. And this poster is very rare. It's not like valuable or anything, but I think it's awesome. And I framed it myself with what's called TrueView Museum glass. And I even put some room in there, I can't really see it here, but there are spacers in there so that the poster is not directly up against the glass. So the poster has a little bit of room to breathe, so it won't wrinkle up over time. So I framed it properly is what I'm saying here. And then finally, as part of this retro corner, I have the PVM, the Sony PVM. It's really an Olympus branded one, but I put a Sony badge on it, and it is made by Sony. I have the same kind of speakers I have over at my desk setup. And these are old speakers from around 2002. So what's great about that is that they're actually magnetically shielded, so they don't interfere with the cathode ray tube at all. So they're safe to have next to it. And I have this little topping MX3 amplifier to power them. It's the same amplifier I use on my desk. I have a Commodore 64 down there just for display. I think it looks cool. Never worked though. And then in these drawers, I keep controllers. So I keep one controller for each of the consoles over here, and they're in really nice condition. Like, these are my nicest, cleanest controllers. I like to keep everything very, very clean. I don't put anything into my collection until I've cleaned it, cataloged it, and all that. So you can see here, some more controllers, mostly first-party controllers. 6-button Genesis, of course. And then I have PlayStation and Xbox stuff in there. Another one of these, this is the same type of controller I have at my computer desk, a Razer Wolverine V2 Chroma. I really like that controller. I'm going to have to try out the V3 sometime, but it's pretty expensive right now. All right, and then here is, let's move over to towards the modern setup. Here is a GameCube sign. I think that one's pretty awesome. But it doesn't quite fit next to the other signs all that well because it's a different dimension. You know, it's a square sign rather than a rectangular one. But it fits right here great. And I don't have any lights here, so it lights up this. If it works well there, basically. Star Wars Battlefront, one of my favorite games of all time. Played a ton of that game on PC and PS2. And I just happened to find this retail poster. I framed it, put it up. Right below the GameCube sign, I have a inexpensive stereo rack, but I have some good gear on it. I have a Pioneer PLX 1000 turntable with a good Audio-Technica microline stylus on there. I have a Kenwood KA 8006. It's a vintage amplifier, and it sounds great with my front speakers. I really like Kenwood amplifiers. They're underrated. I have right here a Yamaha modern audio video receiver to handle the surround sound in the modern setup to the right of me. I have another one of these switch boxes here. This one's used for some of the audio gear. And for CDs, I have a first model PlayStation. Sounds great for CD playback. And below it, I even have a Sony ES 5-disc DVD changer. I wish there were Blu-ray players like that. All right, now let me show you the modern setup. Let me just bring this back to life. I had a game playing just to show it off. Continue. All right, so there's DOA 4 running on an Xbox 360, upscaled by the RetroTink 4K, 3x integer scale. And you can see here I just have an IKEA stand. I have the TV on the stand there. It's about eye level when I sit, so I don't like TVs that are mounted too high. I really pay attention to making sure that my setups are comfortable. Next to the TV, I have these Martin Logan ESLX speakers. They are pretty sweet. I wouldn't pay full retail for them. I got them significantly discounted by stacking a sale price and a open box discount at Best Buy, but they're pretty unusual, and they sound quite special. And center speaker there, NHT, and another old speaker, but I really like how it sounds. And I have 4K Blu-ray player from Panasonic. I have another one of these switch boxes to keep things powered off when I'm not using them. So again, the room doesn't use much electricity, except for right now when I have everything turned on, which I don't normally ever do. Yeah, so there's those speakers. And then for the surround speakers, I have, similar to the speakers on the desk, but a little bit smaller, I have these, mounted them high, towed in towards the seating position. So the seating position here is a couch with reclining seats on the two sides. I have a matching chair for the setup over here. So the idea is that the retro corner is really a single player setup. I can sit there and play like a 2D platformer with 0 input lag on a retro console with a wired controller. Get a really pure experience. Or I can run those consoles upscaled to 4K with a couch, and multiple people could play over here. And I could use wireless controls for that. So let's see here. Over here is a shelf that is built into the wall. And this shelf is, I fixed it up a bit. It wasn't in the best condition when I first moved into the house, but I didn't substantially change it. And in here I keep retro magazines. So my favorite retro magazines are Next Generation. I have a couple issues here on display. And I like Electronic Gaming Monthly. Here's some EGM covers. And I really like the ones from the late 90s and very early 2000s. I think that was a very exciting time. More exciting than anything today. And it's fun to go back and read these magazines from over 20 years ago with knowing what the future turned out to be. There's just something really fun about that. And I enjoy actually reading them. And they also look really cool on display. Some of the magazines, the front pages of them are very, very special. All right, don't need that there. Let me clean this up a bit. I forgot to clean this up. Generally the room is pretty clean though. It's not always as clean as I have it in this video. On the top here I have some wireless controllers. I also have boxed Super Mario games. I mixed and matched American games with some Japanese boxed games from Super Famicom, but I think it looks great together like that. Very selective with what consoles I display in the box. There's just only so much room, and I don't want to just jam everything in a room. I want to put things on display that I really like. And this box is one that I think is worth putting on display. It has such cool colors with the blue and the pink and then the black grid background. Sonic jumping out there. I like that box a lot. And I like the Pokemon posters. There's a cool one from Base Set 2. Diamond and Pearl poster from 2007. That's a poster from a card shop. It was a promotional poster. And then back to the shelf here. There's another box. Big box, but I think this one's worth putting on display. I think it looks cool. The action set with the gray zapper. A couple Guinness World Records and Pat Contry's book there. I should mention I have these PokemonCenter.com bookends. They came as a set of 3, or at least you should buy them as a set of 3, so you have each starter, and they're pretty nice. A couple Nintendo powers back there, and then these are actually my childhood boxed Game Boy Advance systems. I don't have the systems in the box, but I was able to keep those boxes all these years in quite good condition. Some more Nintendo powers over here. I have all the magazines that fit into the sleeves. I have them in these Mylar sleeves. It's the best material. It looks the best, and it's the best archival grade material. And then I have backer boards in there like you'd use for comic books. Some more magazines and strategy guides down there. All right, oh, here comes my friend. That's Ellie. Uh-oh, she's on my microphone. Hey, Ellie. She's a lot of fun. She likes to sit with me when I play games here. She's a great cat. All right, now over here I have a gas fireplace, and this fireplace doesn't get so hot that it hurts any of the games above it. That there's no significant heat up above it. So it's safe to have stuff up here. And what I have up here are PlayStation 2, Xbox, GameCube games facing forward on display. So it's the same idea as the other side of the room here, but with an extra row and a lot more space between them. And I like this a lot because it reminds me of the feeling that you'd get when you would go to GameStop or you'd go to a video rental store and there'd be games on a shelf facing forward, enticing you to pick them up and look at them. Something that is going to be entirely gone pretty soon from retail. And these boxes just look so great. And something that's important is that I don't just put expensive games on display. I'm not afraid to put a cheap game like ATV Alpha Fury or DDR Extreme or the Jack games. They're not expensive, but they're so nostalgic, and there's so many good memories with those games that I think they're worth the space. So again, I don't really worry about just trying to get valuable stuff. Certainly don't worry about grading games. I don't ever want to do that. I just want to have stuff that I like in my game room and display it in a way that is nice. And the other thing that's very important to me is just making sure that making sure that everything is a comfortable experience, a high quality experience. So I always try to make sure that I have good speakers for each setup and great video fidelity as well. So yeah, that's my game room. Basically it has 4 setups in it. It's got the arcade game, the PC, the modern gaming area, and the retro gaming area. And I don't think I mentioned it, but the PC is actually hooked into the modern setup over here. I run a 65-foot optical HDMI cable that connects the PC cleanly without even seeing the wire with 4K 120 hertz capable signal, this optical HDMI cable that I run. So I can play my PC games like a console. I have some software on the computer called Play Night. Lets me launch games from any different service within a single interface. I have software on the computer called Display Fusion that lets me switch between the setups, so I can switch from the computer monitor over to the arcade game with one keystroke, and it switches the audio source, or I can switch the computer over to the couch setup here with the surround sound and the 4K OLED screen. So it's a lot of work figuring all that out, but it's well worth it because it gives me really the ultimate gaming experience. And I guess one more thing I could show you in the room is that the lights, right now I have all the lights in a regular view, like regular warm lighting. But I have, like I said, everything is Philips Hue, so I can switch this whole room over to an RGB mode. So now you can see that the light behind the computer monitor is pink and purple, while the sign stays the proper color temperature. The lights behind the arcade machine that I added in. I also added, I forget if I mentioned, I added those fans in. Those lights change colors. So I don't have any Philips Hue in this room, but the neon sign really lights that room up and looks pretty sweet. Over here, even the console shelf, I have light strips that you don't see unless you look at the underside of the shelf. So you can see those right there. They cast down light, it diffuses. And on the walls I used matte paint so you don't get any hot spots from the lights. Basically, what I'm saying here is I spent a lot of time thinking and planning out the lighting in this room. From the track lights, I have to figure out how far away from the wall do I put the track lights? How do I put all these lights so that everything looks good and I'm not seeing the light sources? Like, I don't want to just put light strips at the edges of the room or something like that where I see all the lights. I wanted to hide everything so that the light bounces off of the wall, that matte paint on the wall, and just looks neat. So like, here's a light back here. I should have that angled a bit differently. You know, angled against the wall, bounces off. You can't see it, it's hidden behind the speaker. At one point I said, hey, you know, this corner's a little dark over here, so I added a light behind the stand there. And then behind the TV I had the bias lighting. And I think, as I said earlier, some lights, track lights aimed at the wall to light up this stuff that doesn't emit its own light. So yeah, that's my game room. I really worked hard on this room, and I think it's something special. I mean, I put a lot of thought into it, many years of collecting and research, and it's a great spot to spend my free time. So let me know if you want to see more videos. I could maybe go into depth in things. I can ramble on and on about cable management, my thoughts on collecting. Just how about you let me know video ideas. Maybe I can make some more. So thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Bye everybody.